Hi, Martin Roberts here. Welcome to another property masterclass on my YouTube channel, Martin Roberts Property Titbits. This is where I try and inspire you and lay down the foundations for some really serious property education and principles, if you like. Remember, this is just a tiny fragment of the educational possibilities that are out there and the stuff that you really need to know. Just little tiny chunks of my knowledge that I'm trying to give you here for free. There are obviously great opportunities and great reasons for expanding your knowledge, which is why I have my own property training courses through Asset Academy, Making Money from Property with Martin Roberts, and also my own online courses, my Property Auction Masterclass, which is online, and of course my books, The Property Auction Guide and Making Money from Property, both of which can start you in the world of property. But I really wanted to do these things on here just to really give you a glimpse of the sort of information that's available and the sort of stuff that you can get to know. And I've created this sort of extended masterclass, really looking at the world of property auctions, because I know that's something that I know a lot about, obviously, and it's something which is of great interest to a lot of people. And this is number 4 in the series, so if you've not seen the other 3, you might want to start and work your way through. They're only 10 minutes long, and it will just at least start to build up your knowledge. I'm not sure how many they're going to be. I'll just stop when I think I've told you everything. Well, I won't. But I mean, I won't tell you everything. I can't do these short little segments. But when I think I've given you a really good flavour of the world of property auctions, and they're really exciting. But make sure you like this video, and make sure that you subscribe to Martin Roberts Property Titbits, and tell your friends if you're enjoying this for sure. So, for the 4th little segment in our buying property at auction masterclass, let's look at the actual auction itself. Now, obviously, in recent times, we've seen some big changes in that real life auctions, have to a large degree been put on hold. And as you're watching this, that might have changed, and I hope that's certainly the case. But let's assume that everything will return to normal, and we will go back to a world where you have people in a room bidding as normal. Now, I believe that the rise in online auctions, which has taken place as a necessity of what happened with COVID and the lockdown, they will not go away. I think they will continue, and they will probably run in parallel with like real live auctions, and so any auction now will probably have a live and an online element. I mean, that was the case previously. A lot of auction houses did have the ability to bid online, but not exclusively, as in there's always been for the most part a live element to it, and I hope that returns, not least because we need to film the Homes and the Hammer, but because there is a buzz that you get from an auction. Just being in a room with people, you get a sense of what other people are interested in. You get a sense of bargains and opportunities that you might not spot if you're watching online. It's a bit like the difference in between reading a newspaper for real, which you may or may not do, and just glancing at information online. You miss stuff, I think. If you've got a big paper, you see things, and things catches your eye, and so there might be in an auction, stuff that you hadn't considered that suddenly is oh my gosh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that one. And often, we find, certainly on the Homes and Land, we've found people who went to an auction intending to buy one thing and ended up buying something completely different, and actually were delighted. Maybe the one they were after didn't go for a price that they were happy with, or whatever it might be. It might have been withdrawn prior to the auction, but they ended up with something else, and that's been really good. So I like the idea that you go along to a property auction. I think it's an event. Of course, it's not as convenient as just doing it online, but let's go through the process anyway. If you are bidding at an auction in real life, I think sometimes it is slightly easier because just your physical presence there cuts a lot of the red tape. You can literally turn up on a property auction. You don't have to book it. You don't have to make an appointment. You just go along to a property auction. You take along with you some proof of ID, so that'd be a passport, driving license, and a proof of an address, and you can register. You don't have to prove that you can afford anything. They rely on you being, sensible enough not to bid on things that you can't afford. But there's no checks. There's no person at the door checking your bank balance saying, can you afford to buy this? They just say, if you turn up there and you bid, and that's it. Which is interesting, right? Did you think maybe that you had to prove that you could afford? No, you don't. You just go and you bid. I think if you're bidding online, and I think all auction houses will have something different. You might well have to lodge funds up to an amount. Certainly prior to lockdown, the way it worked with online auctions is you would have to lodge with the auction house 10% of the maximum price you were willing to pay on any lot. And so that means coming up with some funds early on. 10% is the price that you will pay if you are successful on the day. It's like the deposit. 10% of whatever you pay. So if you bid £100,000 and you're successful, you have to pay £10,000 plus perhaps some solicitors and auction house costs, and in fact in some cases sellers costs. But yes, so you would have had to produce that, and also similarly if you make a telephone bid, which is the way it used to be, one of the options if you couldn't attend the actual auction. Again, 10% of funds would have to be in cleared funds with the auctioneers before the auction started. Now, whether or not that's been relaxed as a result of the way things have gone, I'm not sure. But either way, they will want pretty much proof of where you are and your ability to at least pay the deposit. So you shouldn't go into this anyway, not being able to come up with those 10% deposit funds, because you will be required on the day to provide them. So let's take a live auction. You'll turn up, provide the funds, go into the room. If it's online, you might be watching online, and literally the auctioneer will have an auction catalogue. Now, the auction catalogue might contain 100 lots, and you will have seen this hopefully 6 weeks before, and you'll know what the lots are. But in the interim period, things might have changed. So it's really important that you listen to what the auctioneer says at the start of the auction, because he'll talk about changes to lots, he'll talk about lots that have been sold prior to the auction, and he will also talk about change of guide price, and that does happen. With certain auction houses, they do have a habit of changing the guide price at the very last minute, which is in some cases a little bit annoying, but it's really important that you listen to what the auctioneer has to say. And he will then start going through the auction lots, and he will say, welcome everybody. Okay, so we're going to move on to lot number 1, and that is a 2-bedroom terrace in Bishop's Grove, and it's a nice little house, needs a bit of work. Now the auctioneer does have an obligation to point out serious problems with the property, but at the end of the day, there's a limit to what they do, information they do provide, and in some cases the information that they have available might be fairly limited. It's really, really important that you have, before the auction, not only sorted out your finances, but you visited the property that you are thinking about buying, and that you've read the auction legal pack. Now, the auction legal pack contains all the information that you might need before you buy a property. It's the stuff that that a solicitor would gather. Things like rights of way, covenants, who owns the property, whether or not there are disputes with neighbours. All sorts of things are included in that legal pack. It's the sort of thing, the questions that a solicitor would ask if they were going through the whole process in the normal circumstances. And it's really important that somebody who knows what they're talking about has seen that legal pack. So you mustn't buy a property without reading the legal pack. And likewise, you mustn't buy a property without having seen it beforehand. There could be all sorts of things that you can't tell about that property unless you've seen it. Is it by a busy main road? Is it by a factory that has late night working? Is it on an aeroplane fly path? Is it underneath pylons? Does it have the neighbours from hell? Has it got really bad subsidence that you can't see from the pictures? So you have to have seen the property before you buy it, and that's just, it's one of the golden rules. You must. So the auctioneer will give a brief description of the property and they'll say, right, so who'll start me out? And then you are literally in a bidding process and you raise your hand if you want to bid. You'll be given more often than not, a number on a piece of paper or a card or a paddle, and that's your number. And literally you can either raise the paddle or you can raise your hand, and there's a lot of sort of people who talk about, you know, techniques at auction and kinds of things, and a lot of people who are scared about going to the auction thinking they might just like wink and accidentally buy a property. It's not going to happen. If you make the auctioneer know that you are interested in bidding by getting his attention, and then he's looking at you, and then if you do an obvious wink, then he will know that that is a bid. But he's not just going to randomly look around the room for somebody just like waving at their, you know, waving their hands or whatever, or sneezing or something, and go, okay, I'll take that as a bid. It just doesn't happen. So don't worry about that. For the same occasion, do not raise your hand in the air and wave to your friend who's on the other side of the room while people are in the process of bidding, because clearly that is slightly misleading. You might end up buying a property without realising it. But you want to get the auctioneer's attention, and you want to make him know that you're interested in the bidding. And then, you know, people say, how do you actually bid? Well, you know, it's just whatever works for you. Hand in the air, you know. The auctioneer, a good auctioneer, there's no particular rules. If you want to go, you know, that maybe is half, or, you know, you with 500, can you cut it down to, you know, whatever. But a good auctioneer is lucky. He wants to make a sale, so he's making sure that he gets what you're trying to do. And so you're bidding, and you will bid, and he will say, okay, right, fine, that's £80,000 we got there, and make sure he's looking at you when you bid, so because people often get confused. Am I the highest bidder right now? So just be attentive and go with somebody maybe who's spotting on your behalf, and he'll be pointing. He'll make it clear. He'll say, to the left, gentleman to my left, or lady to my right, £80,000. You know, I'm looking over here. I need £81,000. £81,000. Somebody else bids £81,000. 82. He'll probably look back at you if you're one of the bidders. 82. He's looking for a sign. So if you wink at that point, he's obviously going to say, okay, 82, 83 over here, and so it goes backwards and forwards. I talked in a previous module about budgets. It's really important that you've set a budget before the auction, and you don't go over that budget. And very easy to get what's called auction fever. Where people just bid and bid and bid and bid and bid. It turns into a bit of a, you know, sort of an ego thing. I'm not going to lose out this auction. Don't do it, right? You know, there's other auctions, and there'll always be other properties at auction. So the bidding will go, a bid and bid and bid, 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 bid. People have lots of different techniques. I mean, my suggestion is that you wait until everything else has sort of slowed down, let everybody else do their bidding, and then you come in and make a bid. You know, literally when it's going once, going twice, you raise your hand in the air and you make a bid at that point. It's quite psychologically a good way to do it. And then there'll be another flurry of bidding and da-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. But, you know, bid up to your budget with conviction, okay? Every bid is yes, all the way up to your main sort of top figure, because you don't want to be giving the game away that might be your last bid, because at the end of the day, only you know what your last bid is. So people might think you're going to be going on forever, and they're going to get bored, because at some point they're going to drop out unless they carry on forever, which they're not going to carry on forever. So at some point somebody has to go, I've had enough of this, and you want to be them doing that, right? You want to make sure it's them who's going, I've had enough of this. So yeah, you carry on, and when your budget is reached, you don't bid again. You know, even if it's another 500 quid, because it'll never be just another 500 quid. Because if you'd gone 500 quid, they would have gone 500 quid probably, and now you're at 1,000, and then you put another 500 in. Now you're at 1,500 quid over your budget, and they go another 500. Now you're at 2.5 over your budget. Before you know, you spent more money over your budget than you were anticipating. So you just have to stick to that budget. And if you are successful, it'll be going once, going twice, and he'll be looking at you, bids around the room. It's a really tantalising time. You're going, shut up everybody else. It's going 3 times to sell it, sold. And he'll be pointing at you. And then he'll ask for your number, and you'll have to raise it your paddle, and it'll have your number on it. And at which point you'll be taken away and then sign the paperwork. That's the purchase paperwork. If you're not successful, then you either move on to another lot that you're interested in, or you walk away and say there will always be another auction. Now, there is a thing called post-auction bids, but I'll talk about that another time. For now, I'll do for this session. That's a really important session. It's all about the actual auction itself. So I hope you like this. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to Martin Roberts Property Titbits and look at some of the other property education opportunities that I've got out there for you through martinrobertspropertyeducation.com. It's all on there. My stuff, Making Money from Property with Martin Roberts, which is supported by Asset Academy. So yeah, take a look at that, and also the Property Auction Masterclass if you really want to get into the nitty gritty about buying at auction. But for now, I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll be back with probably the final bit about buying at auction really soon.